It's time for part 4 of reviewing random objects that I come across while playing Half-Life 2. The game has been updated since I made the last installment of this series, but I don't think that will affect any of my reviews. Up first, we've got these non-explosive barrels, just regular old barrels. Of course, they could never live up to their explosive counterparts, but as cylindrical objects, they are decent. At least they roll nicely. I'll give them a 6.3 out of 10. Speaking of barrels, let's talk about these blue ones. These ones aren't used too often in Half-Life 2, and you probably know them best from this puzzle where you use them to lift up the ramp for the airboat. I like how they pop out of the water after being submerged, like some kind of low-poly dolphin. According to Wikipedia, these barrels' structural integrity can be compromised on hot days, which seems like a distinct disadvantage when compared to their metallic cousins. However, the real-world limitation of these plastic barrels won't affect the score because those limitations aren't present in the game. Personally, I like these barrels for their fun physics, so I think I'll give them an 8.6 out of 10. This shipping pallet is such a quintessential Half-Life 2 prop. Honestly, I'm not sure why, but when I think of Half-Life 2 props, I think of this pallet. They're probably most useful in the sand traps level, when you're using them to avoid touching the sand, but they're still decent projectiles for lobbing at enemies in other levels. I tried breaking it against this cliff face, and as you can see, a little piece got stuck floating in the air. Hopefully, for the 40th anniversary update, Valve will fix this. I'll give them a 9.4 out of 10. The engine block is a nice heavy prop, good for flinging into the faces of your foes using the gravity gun. It has a nice metallic shine and hits about as hard as you'd expect it to. I'll give it a 7.8 out of 10. Speaking of blocks, the Cinder block is a pretty common prop, which is used both in puzzles and for combat. Personally, I find it a little bland. I also dislike their use in puzzles because when you're using them to weigh down whatever diegetic seesaw Valve throws at you, it just doesn't feel good. Not only do they tend to slide off and ruin the balance of the puzzle, I also feel like replacing them with a single larger item would be more satisfying and efficient. They also don't break or shatter when you launch them at walls, which makes them less fun to throw around with the gravity gun. I'll give them a 2.8 out of 10. Like the engine block, the automotive tool cabinet is a nice, big, heavy item. Certainly, it will put an end to almost anything you launch it towards using the gravity gun. I'll give it an 8.1 out of 10. Well, that's all for now. Tune in next time for some more reviews of random Half-Life 2 props.